Hi, my name's Keith Cooper, and in this video I'm going to do a quick review of the new Calibrite profiler software. Now I'm going to show monitor calibration, different aspects of it, why you might choose different ways of doing it. But first up, what's new about this software? Well, it's the first Calibrite branded software release specifically for their monitor profiling devices. Now I'll have a bit more about the future of the software and where it's going to go towards the end of the video, but it is software that if you have a Calibrite branded device, and this is a Color Checker Display Plus, this is a Calibrite colorimeter used for calibrating monitors. We're not talking about printer profiles here, just monitor calibration. And if you have one of these, you can update to this software and it will just work. If you've used the previous Pro i1 Studio software and things from X-Rite, you'll realize that an awful lot of stuff has been carried out. Now, these devices are made by X-Rite. X-Rite doesn't do monitor calibration as such anymore. The X-Rite has moved into the more high-end color management stuff, which I will continue to look at, but this is for a wider market, and this is also the monitor calibration side of things. As an example of it, I have a picture. Here's the monitor I normally use for my videos. This is a BenQ hardware calibrated monitor. This one has been calibrated to 4000K, very low color temperature. I'll come back to this in a bit, but this one has been calibrated specifically to look good on the videos in the lighting that I've got, which is roughly 4000K in its color temperature. Now, this is an older iMac, used to belong to my mum, and I've installed the latest Mac OS Ventura 13 on this for testing purposes. My old Mac here, this still runs, this old PowerBook still runs runs OS X 10.13, so it's quite old, but it works. And interestingly enough, I can't run the new software on this. Doesn't really matter because you wouldn't normally use something like the Calibrite software or the X-Rite software before that for calibrating a hardware monitor like this. You'd use the software that came with it. But this is a more general monitor calibration software that you would use for something like this. Now, this one here has been calibrated for 6500 as color temperature, brightness I believe of 120, quite bright but works where I am here. This, to me, looking at this monitor here, I can see it's a cloudy day, there's some wind turbines, there's some abandoned farm equipment. The sky here has no blue in it. Now, what you're seeing on the video is different color temperature. So this one here, if I look at this, this looks a warmer monitor, which it's set to, say, 4000. This one here looks very accurate in this lighting. This one here looks not too bad, looks a little on the blue side, but on the video, I can imagine this one looks almost like a sunny day. That's because this is set for what I would use normal editing use, 6500, somewhere around that, maybe a bit lower I might use on my main monitors, but certainly that's a typical setting that you'll use with these sort of calibrators. What I'm going to do to show an example is I've got a written review which goes into a lot more detail of how this software works, what it's got in it, what bits work. This is version 1.0 software, so there are still a few bits listed as pending. But for the moment, if you've got a device like this, then you can use this new software. If you have something like this, and this is a Color Checker Studio, as was the old Color Monkey and i1 Studio, this device, because it's a Calibrite one, is recognized by the software, but it won't let you do anything with it. There are blanked out sections of the software to do with printer profiling, which would suggest that before long we will see a version of the software that includes printer profiling. I'll cover what to do if you've got an X-Rite branded device a bit later. But anyway, back to this, what I'm going to do here. I'm going to calibrate this monitor to a custom setting. I'm going to calibrate this to 5000K. Now, I can't software calibrate a monitor like this any lower than about 5000K. The hardware allows me to go to 4000 here and match lighting, but we'll see what the difference is. Incidentally, I will just cut the video over, I will just change the white balance of the video for a moment to white balance on this screen. So if I do that, this should now look spot on and this one will look ridiculously warm. But anyway, back to normal. This is what I'm going to set up. I've got the device, it's a USB device, a little folder here. I've got reviews of all these bits of kit on the Northlight site, far more detail than technical detail than I normally include in a video. But that's a device, USB device. What am I going to do with it? Well, I'm just starting up the Calibrite software. There's Calibrite Profiler starting up. Flickers a few times while it makes its mind up what it's doing. As I say, this is an oldish Mac and I've shoehorned Ventura onto this for testing purposes, because none of my Macs I use for day-to-day work will actually run Ventura on them. They work perfectly well. I always say update when you need to update. Updating for the sake of updating is not necessarily a wise thing to do. You may decide to leave this. This is version 1.0 software. You may want to wait until there's a release or two out the way before you update. It should work if you've got Calibrite branded device. Anyway, here we got the options. Now I'm going to go for the advanced settings here, because there's a basic settings which is really quite simple. You just say I want standard photo settings and it will calibrate your monitor to, let's say, 6500 color temperature. It's the white balance of it, so it will calibrate it to that, and it'll do a brightness of 120. Now for editing, I normally have my monitor set slightly lower, but that's just because of the room lighting here that I use when I'm editing pictures. I don't have these lights on when I'm actually doing editing. I have some other lighting, but I'm going to use the advanced mode on this, and I'm just going to it's detected that I have a color checker display plus on it. It has other devices listed here, but it just says demo underneath them if they're not plugged in or not supported. Say this color checker studio, yes, it's detected when I put it in, but nothing works with it, so it's that sort of not working yet. There is an aspect, this also mentions projector, camera, scanner, printer profiling on here, so you can see where this is going to go. I would say that the software here, this is in many ways an updated version of existing software. This is not brand new software. Now, there may be brand new elements of it to let it run on new machines. So M1, M2 Macs, Windows 11, it may let it run on it. But this is essentially the same stuff. So you're not getting, I'm going to think, better profiles out of by changing to this. It's a matter of what else it's going to support and its ongoing support of new systems. As I say, already it won't run on this machine here. That's not a problem. I've got lots of older versions of X-Rite software which work perfectly well on this. And one of the reasons I keep this Mac running this old software on it, or relatively old software, is that it allows me to use all kinds of kit and do a lot of testing and things that I do actually still use. I'm never a believer of having the latest kit unless you do testing work like this. For actual real paying work, I have older kit. Anyway, here we are. Now I've got this monitor profiling. I'm just going to click on next because I want it on the advanced settings. Now I can save presets and do all kinds of things on here. Now if I look for saved presets, I can select that I have actually got one when I tested this, and I've got a mention of this in the written review, iMac 5000K 100, which is where I've set all the settings, the white point, the gamma 2.2, it's a standard curve, the type of profile, all the settings that I need. I can go for a setting here, and the save preset, and what it's changed is it set the color temperature to 5000, which is what I want to try and get closer to what we are around here. So I'm just doing this as an example because I think it will show nicely on the video. Unless you're doing stuff like this, you would not normally want to set a monitor like this at 5000. 5000 maybe in a print environment on a monitor like this, but not one of these. So here we got here, I've got the settings. Now the colored patches, it will just display patches, it'll measure them. So I don't need any complex settings on here because I've already decided all the settings I need. I say these are mentioned in more detail in the written review, which I'll have a link to as well. I'll put that has links to getting the software for if you want it, and also the specifications and everything for that. But anyway, I've set the backlight type for this display. It's defaulted anyway. It's recognised it as an iMac and has said what it wants. Now, to save me going through all the details, I can just click on Next here, and I've got Start the measurement. Now it tells me that I can change screen brightness here by various ways. Now with this, all I can do to change the screen brightness, I can use the keyboard control here. You may have a monitor that has RGB settings. It's got some explanations of what to do here, but with the iMac, it's just nice and simple. I just continue with that, and it will now want to check display. Now with one of these, I tilt the monitor forward slightly just so it sits better on the tray, and the calibrator needs to go there. Now these calibrators, they have a sort of felt pad on them so they won't damage monitors, but do be careful. My really high-end BenQ monitor does not like things touching the low reflection screen that's on it, so you have to be very careful with things like this. You can mark expensive screens. If you're careful, you won't, but if you're clumsy, you will. So we've got that, it's got that. I go to Next, and it's going to tell me what brightness have I got. And it's come up with the brightness, it's pretty much on. Now, this is quite a coarse control, the settings here. The target for this is 100 for this particular setting, for the D50 setting. And I've got a measured luminance of 98. That's close enough. Don't worry too much about getting exact figures. There are lots of custom settings you can make for your profiles here, but I've got to say always that if you don't know what those custom settings are, leave them at the defaults. The defaults are all good defaults, so leave it at that. Monitor profiling and playing around with all the settings on this is a great way of wasting time if you've got an afternoon to kill at work and you don't feel like doing any work, and you can get away with doing this. There are all kinds of adjustments you can make. I'm going to say that most of them you will see absolutely no difference whatsoever, but you know, I have used it myself, as I say, just for avoiding doing stuff. So let's start the measurement, and this is now going to run through all the coloured patches. Now it starts here, and this will go on for a few minutes, and it's telling me that 210 of 211 remaining. Well, it's going through relatively slowly on this. I'm not going to subject you to the whole lot. We'll just jump forward until it's done. A few minutes have passed by, and you can see there's a progress bar runs along the bottom here. Tells me I've only got a few more patches. We've got about 10 patches left. Runs through, it ends off with a grayscale adjustment. Effectively, the software is displaying colours. It's then measuring what the actual colours of the screen are. It's using that difference between what it's sending to the display and what the display is producing to calculate the profile. So there we go, it says it's done. I can take that off, put the cover back on there. And here are the patch measurements. Now, yeah, it's very pretty. I can look at all those patches and see it has a mix between what was sent and what was displayed. Apart from looking pretty and looking if there's anything obviously wrong in it, that's about the utility of such displays. These are here to give you confidence. These are here to look good. These are the sort of things that if I had a sort of a simple basic calibrator, I wouldn't bother with any of this stuff. But it's there because it looks good, and having stuff that looks interesting and useful is an important feature of software like this. Now, I discussed this a bit more at length in the review as to what's useful, what's nice, and what's just there for show. Every bit of software has things like this. For printers, the equivalent is having a super duper ultra high print resolution where all your dials are turned up to 11. It is as useful there as some of these things are. Now, there may be an actual use for this, but I've not really come across one as yet. But yeah, it's quite a pretty display. Now, I've got the, it's produced the display, the profile, it's gone back, and it gives me a chance to save the profile. Now, since this is a special profile that I've done for video matching, I'm not just going to give it its ordinary name here. I'm just going to put iMac underscore 5000K. And I've done one of these, so I'll put 2 on the end of it. I have an option to set a profile reminder on this as well. Now, interestingly, it gives me options of 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 weeks, or never. This is a consumer device as well as a professional device. I'm going to say that most photographers have no need to calibrate their monitors that often. There ought to be options here like 2 months, 6 months, to make sure you don't forget. It really does no benefit to calibrate your monitor every week. Maybe if you're in a professional studio, professional graphics, design, pre-proofing, something like that, maybe then you will calibrate things regularly. But for most people, having options that only go up to 4 weeks, no. So I've set this to none. I don't want this nagging me 4 weeks, saying, oh, redo your profile. I'm not interested. Remind me after 6 months and I'll think, yeah, maybe I ought to do it. But just a minor gripe there. So I'm going to save that, and it's just doing the calculations on the profile. It's now changed the monitor over to the new profile. Already it should look on the video, you should have seen that change of warm. It should have gone from a bluey colour to a warmer colour. It won't be quite as warm as this one, because remember, this is 5000, this one's 4000, the room lighting is about 4000. But anyway, I've got options here. I can look at images, I can do before and after tests. You can put your own images in this. There's all kinds of things you can check here. You can find out information on the profile. So it tells me that the gamut of this display is slightly bigger than sRGB. There's profile curves as well. It shows the lookup table curves for the graphics card inside here, which is how it's doing the calibration. Whereas with a monitor like this, you're calibrating what's inside it, the electronics there. With this, you're calibrating by applying adjustments to the lookup table in the monitor display. That's why you can only really go to 4000 on this one. And already the divergence of these lines here shows me that this monitor is being pushed to work at 5000, which is no more than I'd expect. You don't get monitors. If you need to work at color temperatures like that, you get one that can be adjusted separately. So there we go. That tells me it's working, and that's it done. I can run a validation on this, so it will print some more, display some more colors, and I can check those, and it will tell me I can look at a 3D gamut volume, but that does nothing other than just display a pretty picture. These things are just there to look nice. Some of them are useful. If you know why they're useful, they'll be useful to you. If they're not useful, then yeah, apart from curiosity, most people will have no reason to ever look at any of this stuff. This is effectively done. So I can just click on home and I'm back to the start page. Now I'll quit this, and here's the monitor now set for say D5000. 100 is the luminance is set on candelas per square meter. And let's just open that picture that I've got on this one here. So there we are. If I look at just this monitor here, it's quite a cool look to it, but then my eyes have adapted to the lighting around here. If I look at this one looks, yeah, the sky looks great. It has the proper sort of ominous stormy feel it did that day. You would quickly adapt to either. So this one now is set to work here. It will still look a little blue. I'll chop the video color management for a short while, just so you can see it white balanced to this one compared to this one again, but we'll just go back to the normal video settings I use. So there we go, I've calibrated a monitor, and so that's the new Calibrite software. A few other bits I said I'd mention about if you've got X-Rite branded kit. Now this is not that old. i1 Display Pro Plus. This is the expensive version that will do HDR displays, HDR monitors. Has a lot more functionality if you need that stuff for high-end displays, specialist displays. I don't have anything here that really needs this. I've got a full review of this, which I'll link to in the notes. The problem is, if I plug this one in, this software works in demo mode. That is because if I want to use an X-Rite branded device, even though it's the same device, if I want to use an X-Rite branded device, I've got to pay a license fee to use the software. Now, it's initially £8.99, so it's £9. So it's under a tenner to be able to use this with the new software. If you have perfectly good working software that you are using in your kit and everything is stable, you're not upgrading your computers, there is no need to rush off, I would say, and get this new software. Yes, it will over time have more functionality and it will be quite useful, but as it stands, it doesn't do anything really that I can't do with my existing software if I have one of these devices. Now, this device, I can even run software on this that will work on anything. Likewise, the Color Checker Studio, when this is supported, I would expect, I don't know this, I would expect this to be automatically supported. But if you've got an i1 Studio or even a Color Monkey, well, I don't know what the situation will be. I really do hope they don't abandon the Color Monkey in particular. It would be nice to see, there's quite a few functions from that software to see transferred over to the new stuff. We shall see. But remember, what I'm talking about here is very much a version 1.0 software. It is a new product, Calibrite Profiler. Yes, it works a treat. If you've got a device like this and you want it to run on a new system, by all means install it and try it. As a older kit, maybe hang fire a bit and see what you think. But yeah, there we go. What, 2 calibrated monitors. I've got other videos about monitor calibration, picking with gamut sizes and things like that, how that relates to printing and stuff. Have a look at the list of the color management section, the playlist. I've got lots of related stuff for this, and also, as I say, check the links that are in the video. Now, hopefully that's of some interest, and I'll be coming back to this as the software develops, and I'll show different bits. And I'm particularly interested to see once printer profiling is brought back into this. At the moment, if you want to use this, you'll still use the old i1 Studio software. We shall see what changes. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel and ask questions, because it's people's questions that often gives me ideas for new videos. So thank you.